regular meeting for Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, here at 6 o'clock. I would remind everybody to please silence your mobile devices if you have those on you. And if you are here to speak, please make sure the red light is on. Just punch the button up on the lectern. One second. No sound? Okay. We may have to do a redo. Can you hear me now? All right. Sounds like that television commercial. All right. Well, we'll redo that. I would like to welcome everybody to the Burke County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for Tuesday, June 21st, 2022 at 6 p.m. I would remind everyone if you have a mobile device, please silence those. If you are here to speak at the lectern, please make sure that you can be heard. And we do have theme music, by the way. We're getting all kinds of interesting things tonight. Okay, are we good, Scott? Okay, so when you come forward, we will try to make sure that the red light is on the speaker at the podium, so those folks on YouTube can hear what you have to say. Madam Clerk, we have Commissioner Abley, Commissioner Taylor, Commissioner Britton, and Vice Chair Carswell in attendance, along with our Deputy County Manager and Finance Officer, Margaret Pierce, our County Attorney, J.R. Simpson, and our County Manager, Mr. Brian Steen. We will begin this evening with an invocation from Reverend Dr. Wayne A. Johnson, Sr., our friend from Shiloh AME Church. And after that, please remain, he's going to lead us in the invocation, and after that, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, and that will be led by our County Attorney, Mr. J.R. Simpson.
Let us pray. O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. When we are able to consider that you have made us lower than angels and crowned us with wisdom and knowledge, we ask the question, what is humanity that thou art mindful of us? We praise your name, for you are a great Lord. You are the sovereign ruler of the world, of the universe, and we thank you for your grace and your mercy. Now, dear Lord, we ask that you would bless the world in which we live. Bless the people of Ukraine. We ask that you would bring peace, that you would be with those who suffer, that you would help us in these United States to know that you are God, and beside you there is none other. Now, Lord, grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the living and the facing of these hours. Bless those who have not. Bless those who wish their health was better. Bless us that we might remember that from the dust of the earth, God, you have made all flesh. Bless us now. Bless this august body and the work that is on this evening's agenda. Remind us that we must live together as brothers and sisters, or we will ultimately perish as fools. Bless us now, we do pray. And the people together said, Amen. Amen. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. Gentlemen, that moves us on to item number 4, approval of agenda. Gentlemen, there is a technical correction to consent item number 2. If you've had a chance to take a look at that. We had replaced Todd Justice with Scott Burson. Mr. Justice has taken another job.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the agenda as presented, including the technical correction to consent item number 2.
Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify with an uplifted hand. Motion carried 5-0, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Commissioner Britton. And item number 5, approval of meeting minutes for February 3rd, 2022, budget retreat. Gentlemen, you've had a chance to review those minutes. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Britton. All those in favor signify with uplifted hand. That will be 5-0, Madam Clerk. This brings us to presentations. We have several presentations tonight, and the first, as always, is our Pet of the Month, presented by our friend Caitlin Settlemeyer, Animal Services Director. Oh, wow. Who do we have here?
Good afternoon. We are very excited to be back up here this month to be presenting another Pet of the Month. So we actually chose Halo to be our Pet of the Month. We brought Paisley with us today. Halo is participating in our Dog's Day Out program at the shelter right now. So she didn't get to come down with us today. So we brought Paisley to get her out of the shelter for just a little bit. So I will speak about Halo and Paisley, if that's okay, just a short little blurb. So that's Miss Halo. She is currently, like I said, wandering, romping around Burke County. So we had a sweet family come in and check her out for the afternoon. But she is absolutely wonderful. She is dog friendly, kid friendly, cat friendly. She will make someone a wonderful pet, as well as Miss Paisley, who is with us this evening. She is a little nervous being up here around a bunch of people. She's not used to that, but she is absolutely wonderful, and she's a very, very smart dog. So if you guys are looking to add a very active dog to your family, Miss Paisley's going to be it. She's going to be your running partner, your hiking partner, loves children. If she goes to a home, please make sure you have kids, because this dog is absolutely incredible with them. She went to a foster, so she slept with her 3-year-old. So she needs a home with lots of active children running around. So if you guys are interested in either Halo or Paisley from our Animal Services Center, come down and meet us. We have a ton of great dogs down there right now, and kitty cats, which leads us to our cat of the month. This is Mr. Murphy. Mr. Murphy is a giant lap cat. So if you guys are looking for a real cuddly guy, he said, let me talk about him. Murphy is your boy. So if you guys want to take home a very affectionate kitty cat, come down and meet Murphy. He is one of just several adult cats we have right now. Right now it's cat and kitten season, so we are completely inundated with little tiny kittens. So if you're looking to add a tiny kitten, come down and see us too. As always, I think we have a little blurb on here about our Dogs Day Out program. It is pretty warm right now with people hanging out outside, but if you guys are looking for some water activities and you may need a canine companion, stop by the shelter during our business hours. You can check out a dog for a few hours, or maybe it'll lead to an overnight stay and maybe a forever family. But come down and check them out. They have a great time, and we learn a lot of information about our dogs. Isn't that right, Paisley? We do. And we are also in peak season with our shelter, so we are bursting at the seams with animals. We always need adopters, always need fosters. We work very hard to find homes for all of the pets that come to us, so we do have reduced adoption fees for the remainder of the week through Saturday. So all of our adoption fees, this is actually a little old. For any animals that have been with us 2 weeks or longer, they're actually $10 for their adoption fee. So if you're looking, if you've been considering it, now is the time to come down and see us. And if they've been there for under 2 weeks, they are $50 for adoption fees for those animals. So we would encourage everyone to adopt, spay, neuter. We do have a lot in our care right now. As always, looking for information on adopting and fostering, that is our address and phone number and email. Please reach out with any questions, concerns, and Paisley would love to go home with someone.
Gentlemen, any questions, comments for Caitlin? Caitlin, how many animals do you have in the shelter currently?
Currently in our care, we have about 147. We do have several who are being held as for evidence. In the shelter, we have about 48 cats and 25 dogs. So we have about 70 animals to kind of look at down at the shelter.
Well, we appreciate it, and that dog does have a lot of energy.
She does. She's very high energy. She's going to speak for herself. She said, you don't have to talk for me.
Well, Caitlin, thank you so much. I'd encourage everybody to adopt, foster, volunteer, and please remember to spay and neuter your animals, please. Moving on to presentation number 2, General Services. This is a presentation of designs for Jonas Ridge and East Burke convenience sites, and this will be presented by Mark Dillahant, our General Services Director. Mark, how are you, sir?
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Much like Paisley there, I'm a little nervous being up here, so bear with me if you will. Yeah, thank you. As I said, I'm a little nervous being up here. But anyway, I'm excited to share with you this evening what we've come up with as a design for both the Jonas Ridge site and the East Burke convenience sites. Burke County has 6 convenience sites. To the best of my knowledge, Jonas Ridge was constructed back in 1993, and East Burke dates back to 1987. Waste management has changed a lot since that time, primarily due to the public's interest in recycling and the statewide landfill bans, which prohibit the disposal of certain materials in landfills. The list of materials that are now banned from being landfilled includes yard waste, white goods, aluminum cans, plastic bottles, scrap tires, batteries, electronics, antifreeze, used oil, and pallets. The challenge is to offer recycling opportunities to our citizens in the most cost-effective way possible. Just as my input was sought, in addition to reducing the transport cost of the commodities, I wanted a design that was easy for our staff to manage and easy for our citizens to use. I believe the general design achieves that. As you will see, the basic components of both sites are very similar. Both designs allow for a drive-through visit, and both are set up in such a way to make recycling easier to use and manage. Slide number 1 here, let's see. This first slide shows the overall layout of the Jonas Ridge site with the primary entrance lining up with, let's see if I can use the pointer. With the primary entrance lining up with Ginger Cake Acres, and everything outside of the paved driveway area, although not part of this project, was considered as we look at placement for our convenience site. We have asked that the well and septic be sized to accommodate the future community center as well. This is more of a zoomed in feature of what we plan for the site or hope to plan for the site. And as you look at the slide, you can see the stormwater retainage areas and the site itself. We placed the site attendant building so that the attendant can have a very good view of the folks entering and using the facility. The site attendant building will include a small office area and a small counter / kitchenette area and an ADA accessible restroom. Next to the attendant building, we have what's a special waste area like the one in the photo. This was done at my previous employer, and it's very clean and easy to use for the collection of used motor oil and all those things that aren't quite pleasant and can be a real mess to have to manage. The traffic flow through the site will allow citizens to stop and drop off their household waste and then drive forward to the dual stream recycling compactor and deposit recyclables such as plastic bottles, mixed paper, aluminum, and tin cans. Clear and easy to understand signage with pictures is an important component to educate the public as to not only what goes where, but also what is not allowed. Now I'd like to share with you the next slide. This would be what we hope to have in mind for the East Burke site. This slide shows the overall site plan and includes the footprint of what we hope will one day be the water sewer office with the existing water sewer maintenance facility behind it. A large part of the site development cost includes the turning lane that will be needed at the entrance / exit, which we plan to capitalize on by having it serve as the entrance for the other facilities planned for that property. Much like the Jonas Ridge site, you will see how the design allows for a drive-through visit with much of the same components, only that this site will have 3 compactors side by side, with the one in the middle being used for dual stream recycling. If the site visitor has both household trash and recyclables, they would use the lane in between the 2 boxes, and if they only have household waste trash, they would use one of the outside lanes for depositing their trash. The one compactor in the middle would be for recyclables. So, for example, if they had both, they drive through the middle of both boxes, throw the trash to one side and recyclables to the other, and they'd be on their way. Now, as you can imagine, this is a difficult time to project construction cost, but we feel that a safe not to exceed number for the Jonas Ridge site would be $1.1 million and $1.5 million for the East Burke site. Design services for the Jonas Ridge site were provided by McGill, and West Consultants has assisted us with the East Burke location. Alan Glines with planning has been working with the McGill, and Benji is here and can probably answer some of your questions related to the East Burke site regarding the process moving forward, including give us some ideas as to a timeline. So between the 3 of us, I'm hoping we can answer any questions you may have.
Gentlemen, you've heard the presentation. Questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I have a couple now. Do I understand that one up on the mountain is about completed? Is that correct?
No, sir. We're simply in the design stages.
So we're just looking at the site, and
We-
no contract has been let yet on that.
That's correct. The property has been acquired, which that was quite time-consuming in itself. And then the design work began not that long ago, a couple months back, as we contracted with McGill for that.
Okay. Well, your East Burke Society, one of the questions I had, you might not can answer that question yet, but what's the main difference between the one at East Burke and the one that's over on Roadhead Snob Road?
Well, the size, and I believe the entrance does not allow for a drive-through experience at the one on East Burke that's over off Roadis Road now. Is that what you're referring to?
When you talk about how much more capacity will it handle?
Quite a bit more with the space allowed and the way this is set up. It should handle a lot more. It would take us well into the future if that's what you're referring to.
Anticipated date that it will be built and usable?
That is more of a Benji question, I guess. We're seeking some direction on design, making sure you guys are happy with what we come up with in the way of a design before we can go out to bid and all these other things. In fact, I don't know about McGill, but I've met with Benji today, and he's got some bid documents ready to go as soon as we get some further direction from the board.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, other questions?
Mark, on the East Burke site, I'm looking at the upper area there where where it says special waste, and then you got 5
Okay.
different containers there. How would the public interact with those? Are those meant to be long boxes with end openings?
The recycling area where it says cardboard and C&D and some of
Right.
the other stuff, yeah, they would be self service, so to speak.
I guess I'm just having a little difficulty understanding so if the consumer parks and in most of our other sites, we've got, I guess what I'd call front load cardboard type, you stuff it in the top. This doesn't look like the same arrangement.
Right, they have a recycling box for cardboard that is long, much like the shape of that, and it has the slots all the way along as it goes.
On the sides of it?
For cardboard, yeah, and plastic, yeah.
What goes in the C and D boxes?
It's construction demolition. It's much like what's received at our landfill, and that's where it's taken to, all to and disposed of.
Those would be similar, I suppose, to what we have end loaded. You
That's
tote your-
correct.
Tote your sofa to the end of it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, other questions? I know we've all gotten phone calls about these projects, and the one in Jonas Ridge, remind me, how many acres did we, or was it 17?
I'll have to defer to Alan on that.
Yeah, I think it's about, between 2 tracks and then a little piece we just bought, I think it's about 20 acres. When it's
20
all
acres.
said and done, yeah.
And if we agree to give y'all direction to go ahead and pursue this, you said, the timeline's a little nebulous, I understand, but what is a realistic time frame if we said, look, obviously these are needed, we've got the property purchased, let's do it?
Timeline would be, go out for bid late summer and get back with our bids, and then we come back to get budget amendment made up with you all. And then we can start construction just as soon as we can. Now, up on the mountain, it might have some more winter weather up there that could slow things down, but I think this time next year we're in business, if not sooner. So we shoot for something like that.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? All right. Mark, thank you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, do we need
I
to
was
direct
wanting
them
to
to go out and move forward with the bid process, or is that something already in process?
You read my mind, I was going to ask the county manager, do we need to give you any direction? Said I?
No, I think we are just giving you guys an idea of where we are. I think the East Burke site, they're going to finish up design work on that in the next few weeks. The work for the Jonas Ridge site may be more towards mid-July, but as soon as that happens, I'd like to move forward with this and bid them out. I don't know if we could be back before you in August, once we bid out and gotten the results back to move forward. But as soon as we can, using normal procurement process, I'm ready, biting at the bit, let's go.
All right. No other questions or comments? No further direction needed at this point. We will move on to item number 3, recognition of the health department. I'm going to turn this over to Vice Chair Carswell.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's my distinct pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, tonight to recognize our local health director, Mr. Danny Scalise, who was awarded the 2022 Ron R. Levine Public Health Award at the annual North Carolina Public Health Leaders Conference back in May 19th. This award is named after Dr. Ron Levine, who is a former North Carolina State Health Director, well known across the state of North Carolina. And since 2004, only 28 recipients have been honored for this distinguished effort in North Carolina, where these directors have expanded the scope of the operations of the health services. So we have no particular awards to hand out tonight. We don't have any checks to hand out tonight. The only thing I can do is recognize Danny. And Danny, if you'll come forward. Also, we have Isaac Crouch with us tonight, who is chairman of the health board. Isaac, if you could step up. And I'm going to ask Kay if she's got a trusty camera with her, and she's going to be taking pictures of us right here, if that is okay. Let me also say that Danny has not been with us 1 year yet. How much? July the 12th, he'll be here a year. This award has not been given to anybody who's been a health director less than 1 year. This is very outstanding as far as we're concerned to see our health director come here in Burke County and do the things that he has done. So I'm very proud of that. Isaac, you want to say a word?
I didn't prepare anything. So,
Good.
yeah. So I'll just say, yeah, we appreciate the work that Danny has done, and proud to be a part of it.
And
I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the support that I get from the Board of Health and the Board of Commissioners and some of my colleagues and here in the audience. It's been great being here. I really appreciate the work. Thank you.
all right, we can do a round of applause now. Smiling faces. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Danny, once again, on behalf of the commissioners, for you and the health department, congratulations. That is fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, that concludes our presentations. We will go to scheduled public hearings. I'll turn it over to the county manager. Adoption of FY 2022-2023 budget and public hearing presented by Brian Steen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As you're aware, I presented a recommended budget to you at the May meeting. We had a couple of workshops after that. The changes that the board decided they would like to make regarding that recommended budget have been incorporated into the budget that is now available for you to take action on and to have a public hearing on. So if there's anything else I can do or Ms. Margaret can do to help you with any questions you might have, we'll be glad to.
Gentlemen, I know we've had multiple meetings, workshops on the budget, and we seem to be in agreement at the last one. So this is a last opportunity if you have any questions or comments before I hold the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I have
Thank you.
I have a few comments that I would like to make. There are very few times there's 100%, And it's the same with the budget. I don't think any of us anticipated to be 100% in agreement with the budget. But I've got a piece of paper here I want to pass out. This comes from page 10-4, section 10, page 4. And what it says at the top of it, and I was looking for other things and found this late and didn't have time to get it to Kay to put up on the screen for the rest of you folks to see. But if you can use your imagination a little bit, I think it'll work just as well. And the one at the top, gentlemen, is the one I was referring to. Unless you are keeping score, it is difficult to know whether you are winning or losing. This applies to ball games, card games, and no less to government productivity. And Pete Hatry gets credit for that. And I've reviewed this, and this is meant to be a little funny, folks, so y'all don't get too laughable with us, but the best way to describe the process of this budget would be to adopt the title of a movie about 30 years ago, maybe 40, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And about every county in the nation probably has some good parts to its budget. It has some bad parts to its budget. And it has some very ugly parts to the budget. And the good part to the budget for the citizens of Burke County and for you is there's no tax rate increase for most citizens. There will be a 2-cent rate increase for those who live in the Iker and the Salem Fire Department districts. So some will receive a tax increase. Many employees, item 2, many employees will receive grade pay increase by pay grade increases. They include first grade, 2 grades, and even 3 grades increase for their job and their work here at Burke County. We've added new jobs to Burke County this year. We have added a total of 16 and new jobs and new positions and pay grade increases is one of the things that keeps giving us a higher budget number each year. And it's getting to a serious point. This year your budget's right at $100 million, and when you add some of the other things that are passed through budget, you're going to get to about $21 million for Burke County. The bad part comes in that most departments are asking for 10 to 20 and some even 50% increase to the budget. The cost of insurance, health, and retirement increases, and wages increase. Service charges are increasing on must-have items like water and sewer. Fees are increasing on many items under major classifications and sub-classifications, things like zoning, building inspection, and fire inspections, and the list goes on and on and on. We continue as a county to use millions from fund balance to meet budget requests to avoid raising the tax rate. Many counties do that, and I'm in favor of doing that instead of increasing taxes, as long as we don't put the fund balance in jeopardy. And the bad includes things that gets put in the agenda and on the budget that wasn't done properly, that was shortchanged, stacked. unauthorized meeting or spending, and there's 2 of those in the budget. Now the ugly. Without any growth in population, we continue to hire more and more employees. Do you know that 100 employees, more employees, at $50,000 a year is $5 million? And folks, remember, when you add employees, that budget never goes away, as a rule. It gets real expensive real fast. Mandates from state and federal government that create higher costs for you and me. Many times it's not the money, but the loss of money and time to carry out these mandates that's placed onto us by higher government. And we all share costs usually of doing that. COVID is a prime example of that. I think it's cost about everybody in the world more money than you realize. But it has been a very expensive cost. Could we have done anything different? I don't know. Nothing else has been suggested. Placing rules and regulations on individuals, businesses, and corporations that become major hardships for many citizens, counties, and cities, and cost major dollars to everyone up and down the ladder. Budget items for a season that lasts many, many years. And we have those on the books. We have items that was intended to last a year or two, and they're still on the books. And one of the things that all county commissioners and county managers and staff have to be aware of are those things that sound pretty, look pretty, and the state or the federal government will pay for the first year, and they can leave you saddled with the costs for years to come. And this is, I say this to, if I had a summation or a verdict, it would be something like, all in all, this is a pretty good budget. One of the better ones we've done in several years. Considering that the ugly part of this presentation is mandated by somebody else. So this board, other than being taken oath to carry out those instructions, we're really not responsible for those things, whether they're real good or real bad. Number 2, there's no property tax for most of Burke County this year. And I know that in a time when everything you see, touch, feel is costing more money, and I think you can say to the staff, to Margaret and Brian and the staff and the board, that that's pretty doggone remarkable that we can sit before you today and say no property tax increase. Could we have done better? I'm sure maybe we could have tweaked a little better. Could we have done worse? We could have done a whole lot worse. But for Burke County's citizens, and as far as Burke County is concerned, at least for another year, you get to keep more of your money. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll shut up.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Any other questions, comments? All right, gentlemen. It's been a long process, so we're to the part where we're going to hold the public hearing. So I will open the public hearing for anyone here that wishes to speak for the 2022-2023 budget. Is there anybody here to speak to this issue? If not, I'll close the public hearing. We'll move on to item number 2 under this. Gentlemen, we will need a budget motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the fiscal year 22-23 budget ordinance number 2022-03 as presented, and to approve a memorandum of agreement between Burke County and the Burke County Board of Education for fiscal year 22 and 23.
Thank you, Vice Chair Carswell. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify with the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that is 5-0. We'll move on to item number 3, Burke Development Contract. For this motion, we will need a motion to recuse Commissioner Britton.
Mr. Chairman, I move to recuse Commissioner Britton from the discussion and vote concerning the funding and contract for Burke Development, Inc.
All right, gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in agreement signify with the uplifted hand. That is 4-0, Madam Clerk. Commissioner Britton, yes, recused himself from the vote. All right, gentlemen, we'll need a motion to approve funding.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve funding in the amount of $318,000 for BDI, Burke Development, Inc., and to approve the related contract between Burke County and BDI for the fiscal year 22-23 pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 153A-499 and North Carolina General Statute 159-40, and in accordance with SL 2021-191.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. All those in favor of the motion signify with the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that is 4-0.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the county manager to execute the contract between Burke County and BDI on behalf of the board.
Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor signify with the uplifted hand. That is 4-0 again, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to instruct the Deputy County Manager, Finance Director to provide for $318,000 for Burke Development, Inc. in the fiscal year 22-23 budget pursuant hereto.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. All those in favor of the motion signify with uplifted hand. Motion carried 4-0, Madam Clerk. This will move us to item number 4, Valdez Economic Development Investment Corporation contract. Tongue twister there. And so I would entertain a motion to appoint Commissioner Britton as a temporary chairman for the Vedic series of motions, because I will have to recuse myself.
Thank you, Commissioner Mulwee. You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by the uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that's 5-0. Now we need to entertain a motion to recuse Chairman Mulwee and Vice Chairman Carswell from the discussion and vote concerning the funding and contract for VEDIC. All those in favor of that motion indicate by the uplifted hand. 3-0. Thank you. Now we need a motion to approve funding in the amount of $10,000 for VEDIC and to approve the related contract in between Burke County and VEDIC for fiscal year 22-23 pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 153A 449 and NCGS 15940 and in accordance with SL 2021-191. Do I hear a motion? Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All those in favor of that signify by the uplifted hand. It's 3-0, Madam Clerk. Now I'd entertain a motion to authorize the county manager to execute the contract between Burke County and VEDIC on behalf of the board. Do I hear a motion? Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. All those in favor, please signify by the uplifted hand. 3-0. Now we'll entertain a motion to instruct the Deputy County Manager and Finance Director to provide for $10,000 for VEDIC in the fiscal year 22-23 budget pursuant hereto. Do I hear a motion? Thank you, Commissioner Abley. Those in favor of that motion, please signify by the uplifted hand. It's 3-0. Thank you. Abley, I think I said Abley, but I'm... All right, with that, I'll entertain no other motions, and Chairman Mulwee will resume as chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Britton. All right, we got one more item here, gentlemen. Under contracts under NCGS 153A-449. We'll need a motion to authorize the county manager to execute contracts with all other nonprofit corporations under our C501c3 that receive funding in the FY 2022-2023 budget in accordance with NCGS 153A-449 and NCGS 159-40.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Britton. All those in favor of the motion signify with the uplifted hand. Gentlemen, that is 5-0, Madam Clerk. All right, thank you, gentlemen. That will bring us to informal public comments. We have several speakers signed up for tonight. I would remind everyone, let's make sure the red light is on when you come up to speak so the folks at home can hear you. I would remind everybody there is a 3-minute time limit, and so please adhere to that because we've got a lot of speakers. And Madam Clerk? Yeah, I agree with you. It's probably just easier to leave that on. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Who do we have here to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Miss Melanie Miller.
Good afternoon.
Evening.
Evening, yes. My name is Melanie Miller. I'm the wife of a public safety sergeant. I'm a mom of 2 and a special education teacher for North Carolina Virtual Academy. In an effort to alleviate childcare costs, I chose to begin teaching virtually, but we did know this would be a challenge because in the shutdown of 2020, we did not have high-speed internet where we currently live in the western part of Burke County. But we also knew that the time with our kids can't be replaced. So I did decide to take that leap and start working from home so that I could be with my children more. And we started paying $240 a month for satellite internet to try to get the top package that was promised to give me all the gigabytes needed to work from home. And it did not work. So then I had to start commuting 5 miles down the road to be able to work from home, but I didn't actually work from home. And then next year, my daughter, she's going to be in kindergarten, and we've decided we want to keep her home and do virtual school with her as well. Just in light of, recent school shootings and my husband's night shift schedule, we want her home. That's what we feel like is going to be best for us, but internet is still just not an option. Even in 2022, where we're at, high-speed internet, it has not come to our area. And we also just live about a mile from where high-speed internet is provided. So that's kind of the challenge we're facing, and I have spoken to several different people. I spoke with Andy Paragon, I think is his last name, that works with Senator Daniels, and he told me that Burke County is a Tier 1 county in respect to the RDOF grant. So that's RDOF. It's a federal grant that has given different companies money to bring high-speed internet to rural areas, specifically for rural and agricultural areas. And when I've contacted, he referenced me to Mr. Steen, who then put me in touch with Michael Tank at Charter, who said that, well, we have a 6-year build window. And that's all they've really said. They've got the money, the grant's approved, but we have 6 years. He did say in a separate email that there is a GREAT grant, so that's GREAT, and that is also targeted toward agricultural areas. That is being handed out by North Carolina's Digital Equity and Broadband Division, and that has a build timeline of 2 years. So he said they would work on that construction area alongside RDOF areas, which where I live is an approved RDOF area. And there's a lot of people in our areas that do need this. I've had people come with me tonight. I started a petition just 3 weeks ago putting out the interest for it, and already 140 people have signed. And for rural, that's quite a bit. That's a lot of people in Burke County who are saying, hey, we don't have high-speed internet. It's 2022, and I still can't, for us, even making a cell phone call becomes an issue sometimes. So I'm coming to ask you for your support to, if you have connections or if you can reach out to Charter, to North Carolina's Digital Equity Division, and see if we can get approved for this great grant, the next approval period is this July, so next month. They're gonna, say which counties are getting this, and it really is evident that Burke County needs it. So thank you guys for listening, and hopefully we can get something moving.
Thank you, Mrs. Miller.
Reverend Marshall Jolly.
Good evening. I'm Marshall Jolly. I live and work in the 300 block of South King Street, and I have served as rector of Grace Episcopal Church since 2015. As you may recall, this is not the first nor the second. I suspect it will not be the last time that I've appeared before you urging you to take on the mantle of leadership on the issue of racial equity and justice. As you have heard suggested here tonight, and you'll have heard at almost every public meeting you have held for the better part of the last year or so, an important place to start is to engage in honest and direct conversation with members of the community about the long shadow cast on Morganton and Burke County by the Confederate monument that stands at the very center of our community. Several of you and several more candidates running for seats on this board in November have cited state law as a reason that you cannot act. That is a perfectly reasonable and respectable position to hold, except for one problem. The following Confederate monuments and memorials have been either removed or relocated since 2015. The Zebulon Baird Vance Monument, the monument to the 60th Regiment North Carolina Volunteers in Battle of Chickamauga, Sampson County's Confederate Monument, the Mount Zion Confederate Monument in Cornelius, the Pasquotank County Confederate Monument, Fayetteville's Confederate Monument, Fayetteville's Monument to Confederate Dead, Fayetteville's Confederate Monument at Cross Creek Cemetery, Gaston County's Confederate Memorial, Greensboro's Confederate statue, Pitt County's Confederate Soldiers Monument, Lenoir County's Confederate Monument, Lexington's Uptown Square Confederate Monument, Lewisburg's To Our Confederate Dead Monument, the Granville Gray Monument in Oxford, the North Carolina State Confederate Monument on our own state Capitol grounds, the Monument to North Carolina Women of the Confederacy, again on Capitol grounds, the statue of Lawson Wyatt, also on Capitol grounds, the Nash County Confederate Monument, the Gloria Victis Monument in Salisbury, the Anson County Courthouse Confederate Monument, the Warrenton County Confederate Monument, the Confederate Monument in Wilmington, the George Davis Monument in Wilmington. That's 24 monuments from 18 North Carolina municipalities, which begs the question, what do they know that we do not? I have seen this board, this community, this county come together to accomplish tremendous good. The North Carolina School for Science and Math is a testament to the potential that exists when we work together. You have a strong, committed group of your own constituents who keep coming to you time and time again, and will keep coming to you time and time again, to ask you to lead, to partner, to collaborate. It is long past time that you accept the invitation to come to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Jolly.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Karen Brzezinski.
Good evening. My name is Karen Brzezinski. I live at 112 Parkland Street and have been a Morganton resident for almost 23 years. My husband and I have raised 4 kids here and love the natural beauty that surrounds us. As I speak, I want you to remember that history should never be erased and symbols matter. Shortly after moving here, we took a drive to explore Wilson's Creek and discovered Confederate flags displayed at a couple residences. This made my husband nervous, as he was raised Catholic, and the Confederate flag, in our experience, was strongly associated with white supremacy and the Klan, which didn't like Catholics either. Though common sense told us they would never be able to tell by looking at our skin, we directly made our way home and wondered where we had moved our young family. The placement and symbolism of the Confederate monument on our courthouse square invoked similar feelings, though much stronger and more significant. I believe many who might have wished to make our beautiful county their home could reconsider it after seeing these symbols of white supremacy. 12 million humans were stolen from Africa to become slaves in our country up till about 1850, Mr. Taylor. The Civil War ended in 1865, and Reconstruction followed until 1877. the Jim Crow era of segregation, lynchings, and other acts meant to instill fear in the entire black community followed until 1968, Mr. Taylor. There is documented proof that Confederate monuments were erected during this era as such an act. Burke County's current monument was placed in 1918, 53 years after the Civil War ended and right in the middle of Jim Crow. Accurate history should not be erased. Symbols matter. North Carolina Supreme Court Justice Walter Clark spoke at the unveiling of the Burke County Monument in 1916, stating that the Southern states' right to maintain the institution of slavery was a good part of their desire to maintain independence from the Northern states prior to the Civil War. This was spoken at the unveiling of the monument that sits in prominence on our historic courthouse square. In 1927, Brodus Miller was lynched in Burke County and laid out on the base of this Confederate monument by the police because the thousands who showed up demanded to see the corpse. This is part of our history that should not be erased. Symbols matter. I encourage you all to reconsider, strongly encourage you to reconsider dialogue on this issue. Moving this monument to a Confederate cemetery where the lives lost can be mourned without the glorification of the symbols of racism, white supremacy, and hatred that its current placement intends represents the best solution. I thank you for representing all of Burke County residents.
Thank you, Mrs. Brzezinski.
Joe Curtis.
Gentlemen, my name is Joe Curtis, and I have lived in Burke County all of my life. When I was a small child, I loved the statue on the courthouse lawn. I actually thought it was a statue of my daddy, whom I adored. My family lived on Johns River in the Chesterfield community. Daddy farmed hundreds of acres in Burke and Caldwell counties. While we grew most of our food, we did come into Morganton periodically on Saturdays to purchase groceries at Head's Grocery Store on the corner of Sterling Street and Queen Street. There were 2 water fountains on the sidewalk outside the store. I asked Mama if I could get a drink. She nodded. I started towards one of the fountains and she yelled, "No, no, not that one." And she pointed to the identical one beside it. I was puzzled, but I drank out of the approved one. When Mama and I had to go to the restroom on these trips to town, we went to the basement of the courthouse. We passed the beloved statue and went to the right side of the back of the courthouse. There was a female hand painted on the side of the courthouse, and it had an index finger pointing, and it said, "White women only." And on the other side was another pointed hand, brown, that said, "Colored women only." The poet Maya Angelou once said, "When you know better, you do better." We know better now. We know that the war was fought in the South to maintain the peculiar institution of slavery, a term coined by historian Kenneth Stamp. We know that the statue was erected during the Jim Crow era that sought to keep blacks disenfranchised, submissive, and humiliated. We know now that the statue is an affront to our democracy. Just as the water fountains have been removed and the white women and colored women only frescoes have been painted over during the civil rights movement, the statue, the Confederate statue on the courthouse lawn must be taken down. Now that we know better, we need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Curtis.
Vicki Dale. Vicki Dale. Sam Avery.
Commissioners, my name's Sam Avery. I live at 115 Riverside Court, Morganton. Thanks for the chance to talk. Because of what another person has already said, I'm going to modify my remarks, and Johnny, I'm going to shorten them a little bit. Last time I was here, I gave my views on the statute. I'm not here about that tonight, but I'm here about a second thing that keeps being said over and over, and that is, why can we not have a dialogue about issues that divide us racially, about behaviors that divide us racially? You have been asked a number of times. To my knowledge, we've never gotten a reply. And as I've listened, maybe no one has really talked about how might this unfold? What might it look like, Scott? And I want to give you an example. It's not a perfect example, Jeff, but it's one that I'm experiencing right now. And it involves people that don't look alike. Wayne, I got invited to be in a men's group about 10 years ago. And it was half white and half African American. And we were called together because we had one thing in common. It had nothing to do with the color of our skin. We were all fathers, and our sons were on the verge of adolescence, and we were all terrified. And we got together to talk about helping young men navigate to manhood. And that went on. And in the course of all that, there were lots of different opinions, but they were never based on skin color. There were things that we shared that we were glad to hear other people say, and it built trust, and it built respect. It built an eagerness to listen. That's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about coming in and having a meeting of people, and let's talk about the Confederate monument. At least that's not what I want to talk about. I want to know you better, Johnny, and I want you to know me better. Only good can come from that. You just demonstrated that y'all use a lot of common sense with your budget. This is as common sense as it gets. It makes our community fabric stronger. So I call on you. You show courage. You have the courage to do this. I call on you to step up and mandate something and lead it and participate in it. It takes courage. You know that. It takes goodwill. I want to close and quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who knew a little about courage and the courage to lead. He said this 60 years ago in Iowa. I'm convinced men hate each other because they fear each other. They fear each other because they don't know each other. And they don't know each other because they don't communicate with each other. And they don't communicate with each other because they separate themselves from each other. And God grant that something will happen to open the channels of communication. That something will happen because men of good will rise to the level of leadership. Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Miss Carla Kincaid.
She had to step out. She's not here.
Thank you. Denise Bishop.
I want to start out first, though, thanking each one of y'all for your public servant, tireless efforts on behalf of Burke County. Good evening. I'm Denise Bishop, a lifelong resident of Burke County, a proponent for all things Burke County is great: history, natural resources, and our citizenry. We live in northwestern Burke County, nestled between Linville Access, the Fontaflora Trail, the Pisgah National Forest, the Linville Gorge, and in an area that swells by the thousands between April and October by vacationers and by tourism. Our hamlet community was served for a number of years by a local company called Carolina West and its tower until corporate profiteering waned by satellite providers competitively. We were left high and dry without access to internet, to calls and all it entails, local calling, etc., leaving our folks and neighbors scrambling with long waiting times scheduled for Wi-Fi services such as ViStat, Skyrunner, HughesNet, and a viable phone that may or may not coordinate with the services. All that are too exorbitant in costs for folks who are retired with fixed incomes or young families who are struggling with mortgages and child care and daily living expenses. For our family to have internet and access at home is a mere nature of safety. My husband has had 3 open heart surgeries, strokes, seizures. He doesn't drive, and we have no viable phone at home. It could be a life and death scenario. I have called AT&T. I have asked about their landlines, and they have assured me that they are no longer in the landline business and that the infrastructure is so poor in our area and that the copper lines are filled with water, and therefore they would not be interested in giving us a landline. While surrounding communities 5 miles from my home South Point, and 5 miles north, 1780, and Font de Flora Brewery have fiber optics that they pay only $100 to tap onto, some of the wealthiest folks in our area. I must add that also our 2 local campgrounds across the Highway 126 that swell right now have over 150 campsites, are able to access the tower across the water to Holiday Shores. Also, I have a historian friend on Highway 105, Patty's Creek area, and they have access to 5G via all those towers that are off Highway 126. This is just not a livable situation for us. We feel that our county commissioners need to be working immediately, expediently, for their constituents, for the permanent residents, for the vacationers that come. We ask that you move promptly on this digital equality, I think it is, equality broadband funding that the state of North Carolina has provided for us. We ask that you do this and would relieve fiscal and financial hardship that is causing the citizens of Northwest Burke County and the rural residents. I thank you again for all y'all do for our county.
Thank you, Mrs. Bishop.
Mr. John Hamer.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is John Hamer. I live in basically the same area as Miss Bishop, but I too have run into the same problem. Along with Miss Bishop's husband, I have heart trouble, have had strokes. We have access to no phone as of last week. Like I said, they just decided one day that after 25 years of being a customer that we weren't going to get phone anymore. In the same scenario, can't get a landline, and I spent a virtual fortune this week trying to find a provider that would have access to phone in my area. There is no Wi-Fi, there is no internet whatsoever. What we did have, we used for my cell phone. My daughter's in college, and during this COVID epidemic, she had to stay in her dorm when they closed the school because she had no access to do the online classrooms. It cost a fortune. And I've seen and read that there's been numerous programs for internet for rural areas, and yet I've seen none and don't know where to turn. I watched the news the other day of people in huts in Rwanda with a cell phone, and here in Burke County can't get internet. And it's sorry, this is 2021, 22. Why I can't even have a telephone. I mean, it's ridiculous, totally ridiculous that someone somewhere can't see that you have basic infrastructure to accommodate. I mean, it's a luxury on one note, but in my case, it can be a lifeline. And there's no access, none whatsoever. I've called everybody that I know to call, and like Ms. Bishop said, I guess it's corporate profiteering, just decided one day after being a 25-year customer that you don't have service anymore. And we don't know where to turn. And we ask you, where do we turn? In a county this size, where do you get access to communication? It's a problem. And we're not the only ones. I mean, we're the only ones here today, but that whole area that was serviced by that provider, just poof, it's gone. And we don't know what to do or where to turn. We ask that someone here try to help us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hamer.
That's all the cards I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Gentlemen, this will move us on to item number 9, consent agenda. I'll ask County Manager Mr. Steen to present the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have 9 items on your consent agenda. Number 1, clerk appointment of CPCFPT. Item 2, clerk resolution updating plat review officer for Rutherford College. Item 3, finance, FY 22-23 general liability workers' comp insurance renewal. Item 4, general services, renewal of janitorial services contract. Item 5, general services, Labella Associates annual service physical 22-23. Item 6, JCPC, removals, reappointments, and appointments to the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. Number 7, Register of Deeds, matching funds for the Register of Deeds grant program. Item 8, Tax Department tax collection report for May 2022. And the final item, number 9, Tax Department release refund report for May 2022. That concludes your consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Steen. Gentlemen, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve all items as
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Everyone's heard Commissioner Taylor's motion. All those in agreement signify with the uplifted hand. That is 5-0, Madam Clerk. That moves us to item number 10. We got several items, gentlemen, for decision this evening. So we'll begin with Community Development Abatement and Demolition Order 7901 Houston Avenue, and this is going to be presented by Alan Glines.
Well, I'm going to invite Steve Holden, Chief Building Inspector, to present to you tonight. Mr. Deputy Marler had child care duties that were unexpected, and he couldn't make it tonight. So we're in capable hands with Steve Holden. Thank you.
Steve, how are you?
I come for you tonight bringing you 2 properties. Both have been under the 160D 119 condemnation hearings. Both of them were burnt in a fire, damaged by fire. Had numerous complaints. Also, Burke County Sheriff's Department handling many calls at these sites. In this, we were asking for a decision to be made to demolish or repair, and no one done anything in a certain amount of time that was given in the hearing. And to this day, no progress has been made. I ask for a decision from you tonight to fund us to demolish these properties. The first one being Houston Avenue, which is 79001 Houston Avenue. From the photograph, you can see that it was burned extensively in a fire. We asked for them to repair it, and to this day, no one has done anything on it. So the second one that we bring to you is 2581 Raintree Street.
I'm sorry, we'll take these one by one, please, sir.
What, sir?
We're just going to take these individually.
Okay, one at a time.
Yes, please, sir.
I apologize.
So we're going to stick with the abatement and demolition order for 7901 Houston Avenue. I know, gentlemen, we've had materials and reviewed this at the pre-agenda meeting. Any questions or comments for Steve?
Mr. Chairman, I The only thing that I asked at pre-agenda was there, possibility of knowing what the cost would be to fix up the home, and I believe
Yeah.
you responded that it would be much more than
The cost.
it would be worth when you got through it. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Do I remember that correctly?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's the only question I had. I just wanted to make sure that no response since our pre-agenda either. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Taylor. Any other questions, comments for Steve? There being none, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to uphold the combination ruling for the burned home structure and authorize up to $20,000 of the fund balance from the general fund for the Community Development Department to remove the violations and nuisance from the property located at 7901 Houston Avenue, PIN number 276-295-2018, and further authorize the county manager to execute the demolition contract on behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revision by the county attorney. Any direct costs via cleanup, demolition, or removal will be placed within a property lien by the county attorney and recorded with the Register of Deeds office.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. All those in favor of the motion signify with uplifted hand. That will be 5-0, Madam Clerk. Then we'll move on to abatement and demolition of 2581 Raintree Street.
2581 Range Street, same thing. The owner is deceased, been through the hearing. It is, one new thing that's come up is it is under our tax attorney's office for foreclosure on this one, which we didn't know before. Commissioner, the dollar amount of this home that you asked before is $111,618. And if you look at the extent of the home, it's totally unrepairable. I mean, unless you want to spend a large dollar amount on this one that we're at.
Mr. Chairman, I went down and viewed the home. I really didn't go to see the house. I wanted to catch his daughter at home, just to make sure that she was well aware of what was about to happen to that. I did, I knocked several times, stood around, dogs barked in the house, but nobody ever came to the door. But I did walk into the house. What looked in the pictures as smoke damage, there was more fire damage there than you could see in those pictures. It's pretty bad. It would take a major renovation. But the whole purpose for visiting again was to see if I could get in touch with her daughter and let her know what was going on and if any of her family members were interested what's about to happen, and did not make any contact either.
So from the hearing, there's been no progress to this day, and nothing's been done, and numerous complaints from the neighbors.
But it's beyond just dressing up a 2x8 joist. It's, many of them will have to be replaced, completely replaced.
Any other comments, gentlemen? Questions? If not, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I move to uphold the condemnation ruling for the burned home and structure and authorize up to $20,000 of fund balance from the general fund for code enforcement to remove the violations and nuisance from the property located at 2581 Raintree Street, PIN number 27732423330. Further authorize the county manager to execute the demolition contract on behalf of the board, subject to review and/or revision by the county. Any direct costs via cleanup, demolition, or removal will be placed within a property lien by the county attorney and recorded within the Register of Deeds office.
Thank you, Commissioner Britton. Gentlemen, you've heard the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify with uplifted hand. Madam Clerk, that is 5-0. Steve, thank you. Moving on to item number 3, appointment to Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees. This is presented by our Madam Clerk, Kay Drone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. The Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees is a 12-member board. The county appoints 4 members to that board. Seat number 2 is occupied by Rod Harrelson, and his term ends June 30th, 2022. He is seeking reappointment, and we did receive an application from Ryan Morgan.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Gentlemen?
Mr. Chairman, did the board by chance recommend either one?
I can speak because I've obviously been on the trustees for a lot of years. And I know Ryan pretty well, but he's a great dude. But Rod Harrelson is our vice chair, and he'll be our chair probably. I assume he'll be the chair next year. So he's been on there. We appointed him before. He's done a great job. And so, and he did seek reappointment. And so he's been very active on the board and does a very professional job.
So you would recommend him to be reappointed, is that true?
Yes, sir.
So moved. Do I need to read the whole thing?
So your motion
To appoint,
reappoint.
to reappoint Rod Harrelson to the Western Piedmont Community College Board of Trustees, seat number 2 for a 4-year term ending June 30th, 26.
Before I do that, I guess I need to open the floor, by the way, thank you, Commissioner Taylor. I will open the floor for nominations. Obviously, Commissioner Taylor's nominated Mr. Harrelson. Are there any further nominations at this time? Then I will close the nominations. And gentlemen, all those in favor of the suggested motion by Commissioner Taylor to reappoint Mr. Harrelson for the 4-year term ending June 30th, 2026, signify with uplifted hand. All right, Madam Clerk, that is 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right. Item number 4, tax amendments to agreement to conduct reappraisal reviews, and this will be presented by John Bridgers, our tax administrator. John, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. This is a amendment to the contract with the Pearson Appraisals. The county contracted with the Pearson Appraisals to do a full listing measure, and that was based on a study that the Department of Revenue had done and recommended that the county do that. When we got actually into the process, we feel that that's not necessary expense we need to do, and so we're pulling that back, so savings to the county. And this would be to contract or amend that contract to allow Pearson to help the county with the industrial and commercial property valuation. Any questions?
Gentlemen, questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a
ask
motion.
one.
Pardon me. Go ahead.
How much more is it this time around than last? Do you have those figures? How much increase?
Increase in the valuation or the cost of this contract?
The contract.
I can speak to that, since
you,
he
Mark.
wasn't here for the first part. It's actually a reduction from what we had initially planned of somewhere in the neighborhood of $400,000 to step back and do this alternate route.
I heard the last part. You said this would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 400,000.
Less.
How much is that more than the last time we did the appraisal?
In 2019,
Yes.
I don't have that figure. I thought you were asking about the contract itself. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But this is 400,000 less than what we initially thought.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Margaret.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the county manager to execute the amendment to the contract for reappraisal on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, subject to review and/or revision by the county attorney.
Thank you, Commissioner Carswell. You've heard the motion. All those in favor of the motion signify with uplifted hand. Motion carried 5-0, Madam Clerk. John, thank you. Have a good evening. That will bring us into reports and comments. We'll start with Margaret.
I'm happy the budget's done and you'll receive printouts and it'll be posted to the website later today, I believe, and the departments will get their information tomorrow.
Great, thank you. County Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since the last meeting of Commissioners on May 17th, the highlights of my work are preparing an offer to purchase and contract on a tract of land for possible county purchase as EMS headquarters. I've done a 50-year chain and title search on this property, and I am currently working with the seller's attorney concerning certain irregularities with the property title. I have reviewed a proposed waiver and release form for the Sheriff's Department. I have reviewed a proposed bond agreement for a developer on behalf of our Community Development Department. I have attended the May 19th and 27th budget meetings. I have reviewed changes to the Work for Change agreement with Burke County Health Department. I've handled the closing on the Eleanor Shell Ayers property on May 27th. I've represented Burke County and worked with the North Carolina Department of Public Safety in a hearing that was an attempt to buy a capital murder suspect to be moved out of the highest state security where he was for safekeeping at Granville Corrections Institution to the Burke County Jail. We were successful in thwarting that. And I've reviewed documents concerning the wellness program with UNC Health Blue Ridge and met with the county manager and members of their programming concerning the documentation. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I would like to remind the public to please not leave children or their pets in hot cars, and to please leave your pets at home during the 4th of July fireworks. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. County Manager?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the county government's phone system is going to need to go through a downtime of about 4 hours to do some phone software upgrades. That will begin, I think, at 5 p.m. Thursday, the 23rd of June. Again, it should run between 5 and 9 p.m. The greatest impact is going to be on the jail and the administrative lines at 911 Center. However, emergency 911 calls will not be affected by this phone system going through an upgrade. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, Commissioner Taylor?
I'm going to keep it brief today, but I've been too busy to even think about other things. But I did want to say that the new STEAM school celebration, grand opening, ribbon cutting, etc. I told Kate last 5.5 hours, and I stayed the entire 5 hours. But the surprise of all of that, when I attended the County Assembly Day in Raleigh, you'll never know how many people come up and shook my hand. I lost count of it myself. And even people who are in our neighboring counties were well aware of that grand opening and complimented us a great deal on that. But two major events that, yeah, it was a long time, but I'm happy I went to both of them. I had a good events, both of them. That's
Good.
it.
Thank you. Mr. Britton? No comments. Mr. Carswell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thanks or kudos for Commissioner Taylor for staying in the hot in Raleigh, because it was quite hot when we were down there for a legislative day, but it turned out to be one of the better days that we have. I'll be attending a board of directors meeting of the association in Blowing Rock that will be coming up this weekend. Mr. Chairman, I would encourage at this point with what we've listened to today about broadband coverage, it's obvious to me that a lot of people don't know that what we've done for 6 years, what this board has done for 6 years to try to bring broadband to this county, the number of meetings that we've attended, in Raleigh, the meeting I just attended in Durham, where I stood up in front of people from President Biden's cabinet, 4 or 5 of them, and preached the case for Burke County. The gentleman, his name was Mr. Burke, from the Biden administration, who made a lot of promises about what they were going to do in western North Carolina. So I would encourage you and the county manager, if we have to have a press conference with the newspaper, or if we have to go YouTube or whatever, we need to explain our side a little bit better, because we all know that we've worked with Charter. The government relations person at Charter is not a friendly person to work with. The people in Raleigh always say that he's not a friendly person to work with. We've made all kinds of promises. We know about Great Grant. We have never denied that we would not support Great Grant monies. Spectrum says we'll be happy to put this stuff out there. And Spectrum, as I said in the meeting in Durham, Spectrum has the money to do it on their own, but they demanded more money out of the Great Grant program. That's just taking money out of the taxpayers' pockets again, out of the Great Grant program. It's nothing but a grant on top of what they've already got. So I think we need to tell our side of the story so that the people understand what's been happening. Could we do anything else besides what we're doing? I don't think we can. We need to pressure our legislators again to furnish money for Great Grant, which they've been doing, but I just cannot fathom a large company like Spectrum and what their bottom line was last year, that they're still begging for Great Grant money, saying we'll put money out there on Piedmont Road, which they lied. They didn't put anything out on Piedmont Road. They told us, he said, get the people to sign some documents out there, 140-some people. Scott Carrico went out there and got 140-some people to sign a document. Guess what they got? Zilch, zero. They got shafted is what they got. That's the only thing they got out of the whole deal, because the people down there are not telling us the truth. It's hard for 5 commissioners sitting here in Burke County, Little Morton, trying to tell people down there in Raleigh and these large companies what they have to do. I don't know what else we can do, but I think we need to make a joint statement saying the things that we have done so that people will understand what we've done, and I hope we try to do more, whatever that more may be, and that's working with DIT in Raleigh and some of the people that's in charge of the programs in Raleigh to make sure that these companies do what they're supposed to do. We heard a promise in here from Spectrum and I can't remember, CenturyLink about, they're going to divide the county up, and we still don't know the process of what's going to happen there. So we know probably about less than what some of the people do out here in the county. Whatever you two, I just think we need to sit down and let people know that we've worked extremely hard on that. I'm very proud to announce that I've been approached by the National Association of Counties, NACO. In July the 24th, I will be attending that conference, and unfortunately, I've got to go to Denver, Colorado. And I've been asked to join a panel discussion on opioid abatement and the opioid process, and I will be representing North Carolina on that panel discussion at NACO in Denver, Colorado. I'm very proud that I was asked to do that, very, very elated, and I promise I will represent Burke County in North Carolina well when we have that discussion then. That's all I have, sir.
Congratulations on that. That's very impressive. We have one of our own that's representing the whole state of North Carolina, and obviously you've driven the bus on this from the beginning, so well-deserved panel position on that. And if you're going to go somewhere, I guess in July, as hot as it is already here, Denver doesn't sound too bad. I know the plane ride you're not looking forward to, but it'll still be good. And good comments. And Commissioner Carswell mentioned something I have not mentioned to Sharon, I've mentioned it to staff. I'm going to be working with Lance. We're going to do a series of YouTube videos for current questions, like we just got through budget. So what I want to do is sit down with Scott in the back, and Lance helped me organize it, and I'm going to have Margaret on the first one. We're going to talk a little bit about budget and post that. We'll probably do one about exactly what Commissioner Carswell was talking about, just subjects that are relevant to the time and place that because, you know, we get a lot of questions and we don't always get the platform to do it, but with YouTube being free and accessible, well, for most of us, but some not, obviously. I think it would be, going forward, that's going to be a series, try to do at least once a month, and we'll pick a subject. And so I appreciate you bringing that point up, Commissioner Carswell. I will say I'm going to be attending with you, Blowing Rock, on the executive committee for the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners, Friday through Sunday. Hopefully it'll be a little cooler up there as well. And I do want to also mention to staff, to the other commissioners, we had a unanimous vote on the budget. I'm trying to remember the last time that would have happened, but there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and it is a lot of hard work for our staff. There's not a lot of easy decisions, and it's not only staff, it goes down to the department heads, our employees. I mean, there's input throughout, and it's not an easy process. It is a difficult process, but it is a process that works, and I am proud of the fact, like I said, we got a 5-0 unanimous vote, and I'm proud of our staff. You couldn't have done a better job. So thank you on behalf of the commissioners. So that being said, gentlemen, I will remind everyone, please do not litter. If you see trash, please pick it up. And if you're driving to a landfill or a convenience site, please cover your loads. We do have some more events coming up. June 27th, this coming Monday at 10 a.m. We got a ribbon cutting at the new hangar we built in coordination with at the Hickory Airport with the city of Hickory. June 28th, there is a 11 a.m. UNC Health Blue Ridge Morganton new patient tower groundbreaking ceremony. So, gentlemen, I hope you can attend that. That is a huge accomplishment to break ground on that tremendous investment here in the county. We also have June 30th at noon, Parker Industries is reopened, so they're having an open house. So if you do plan to attend, do note that the RSVP is due by June 22nd, so they can plan accordingly. We also, the offices will be closed for Independence Day, obviously, on July 4th. July 5th, 3 p.m., we'll have pre-agenda. July 19th, 6 p.m., our regular meeting. And that being said, I will move on to vacancy announcements by Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, members of the public. We have the following opportunities for citizens to be involved in county boards and committees: the Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee, Burke County Parks and Recreation Commission, the City of Morganton Board of Adjustment and Planning Board for the ETJ areas, Burke Senior Center Advisory Council, the Child Protection and Child Fatality Prevention Team, East Burke Senior Center Advisory Board, Burke County Board of Adjustment, Council on Aging, Burke County Board of Health, Partners Consumer and Family Advisory Committee for Traumatic Brain Injury, and the Animal Advisory Board for an at-large pet owner.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. As folks that in the general public often ask, how do I become involved in the local community? Well, there are many opportunities right there, so we please encourage you to submit an application and become involved. Gentlemen, there is a need for closed session, so I will need a motion to go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318.11A 3, 4, 5, and 6.
So moved.
Commissioner Taylor, all those in favor of the motion signify with uplifted hand. Motion carried 5-0. Madam Clerk, we'll go into closed session. We did have a proper motion to come out of closed session. There is no action to be taken. I will say before I accept the motion before I accept the motion to adjourn, I do want to reach out and say we had some former county commissioners pass away recently that were very important to our community. Jim Cates, terrific person, Martha Hemphill, just a super lady. And so I was remiss in not mentioning it at the beginning of the meeting, so I did want to say our thoughts and prayers are with their families. So that being said, we have a motion to adjourn from Commissioner Taylor. All those in favor signify with the uplifted hand. Motion carried 5-0, Madam Clerk.
She must have